Oh my God. I made it. Barely.
Yeah.
Sort of.
The universe does not want us to talk about tariffs, apparently.
That's what it is, man. No,
Yeah.
they sent the hit out on us because they were like, oh, brothers are gonna be talking about the tariffs. We're gonna stop this. Because the establishment is black. Just I don't know if you know
establishment.
That. The people who like pull the strings, they're all black guys. No, they are. I talked to the Hoteps about this. They know them. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm late. I suck. Whatever. But I got like obligations. Important ones in my life, and I love you guys more than anything, but not more than certain things. So anyway, we're good. We're here. Let's go. We got 1 hour instead of an hour and a half. So let's talk some news. Let's get it done.
Yeah. So I'm having whiplash this week from spending a week preparing to defend Trump's aggressive tariff policy.
Figured. I've been thinking about you. Yeah. I've been wondering what you've been preparing because you got.
There we go.
Let's go. But today, man, was a good day today, though. Good day today.
I mean, yeah, I know, but now I have to defend him backing away and say that was the plan the whole time, was to put a pause on the tariffs, and it was only to negotiate. He would never go crazy and actually put these tariffs on.
But I don't know. It's super possible.
Yeah.
No, in the way he's been today in the last few days, I believe that. That's absolutely believable. It's consistent with what he has said, with what his people have been saying, that this is just a negotiation tactic. It was an attempt to give the United States more leverage in these negotiations with these countries to lower their tariffs on us, which, again, as I've said on record here, I've said on this show many times in the last few weeks, if that's the plan and that's what he does, then I'm not that mad at it. But if these things are permanent, these tariffs are permanent, I doubt it, then he is all the things that leftists and libertarians are saying about him, which is that he's economically illiterate. No, but I've been leaning, as I've told you here for weeks now, toward the interpretation that, no, this is just Trump doing his art of the deal thing, talking tough, bad cop, good cop. He sends this scary thing forward, like tariffs or some threat about war. And then like a day or two later, he has one of his emissaries, Steve Witkoff, for the foreign policy stuff, maybe Scott Bessent, whoever, for the economic tariff stuff. And they go in there and they do a private conversation with these countries and be like, yo, if you just lower your tariffs on us, we'll be cool. And that's what he did today. He suspended, and it is pretty gangster, I gotta say. I mean, Trump is truly gangster, and this is why the rappers love him. I mean, he said today, this was the new policy today, which was every country except for China, which is, according to him, every country that has not put forward a reciprocal retaliatory tariff has now their tariffs been suspended for, 90 days?
Yeah, 90 days for the...
There you go. Yeah. I mean, this is almost proof that it's always been a tactic, that he's never intended tariffs to be permanent. Mm-hmm. But on China, he raised it from, what was it, 54%? Then he raised it to 104% when they put retaliatory tariffs against the US. And then today he was like, fuck China. They're the only ones who are going to be tariffed. And now we're going to make it 125%. Now, the thing is, everybody right now, look around your house and tell me if you can see a thing that was not manufactured in any way in China, does not contain any part from China. It's hard. It's hard these days because for about 20 years now, Americans have been buying so much stuff from Walmart, Amazon, Costco, Target, and you guys can look it up. Target, I think 30% of their goods are from China. Walmart I think it was 80%. It's about 80% of Walmart products are somehow manufactured in China. Costco is about 30%, 40%. Amazon, I don't even know, but it's got to be a massive percentage. So what this means is that every single American company that buys products from China and then resells them on the American market, either through Walmart or through Amazon or Costco, now has to pay a 125% tariff tax on every good they import to resell domestically. So it's a massive tax on American businesses. Let's be very clear on this. And if you're an importing business that has been importing Chinese goods to resell on the American market for years now, your choices are either to go out of business, and I'm sure a lot of them will. I mean, how could you possibly sustain a business with that kind of tax on it? Or you're going to pass that, if you can, pass that cost onto your consumers by raising your own prices. Now, the thing is, people always assume, oh, corporations are just going to raise their prices. They're just going to raise their prices. You can't raise your prices if the market won't tolerate it. If people can't pay the price, they're not going to buy your good no matter how important it is to them. So this is another possibility. I mean, I would imagine even probably already there's some businesses going out of business because of this tariff. Maybe not permanently, maybe not a lot of them, but so you're going to go out of business. You're going to pass the cost, if you can, onto your consumers. If your consumers are rich enough to pay twice what they've been paying for your good, for your product. Or I guess that's it. Those are the only options. So I'm just hoping when this was announced yesterday that they said they were going to put 100+% tariff on China yesterday. I clenched because I can't imagine a more catastrophic measure for the American economy to take right now. Again, if China succumbs quickly and says, oh, we're sorry, United States of America, we're going to lower our tariffs on you guys, which is exactly not what Xi Jinping has been doing and saying in the last few days. What he's been saying is, fuck you, Donald. Here's a tariff against you. We're going to raise our tariffs against you. China's feeling itself right now. I mean, I don't know how deep that is, how convicted that is, but they are feeling themselves and they are coming right back into Donald Trump's face. And so that's why the tariff against Chinese goods is now 125%, which clearly is unsustainable, but so much, not just of the American economy, but of our comfortable lifestyles, Americans' comfortable lifestyles, including poor people, people who live in public housing projects have Chinese goods all over their apartments. Everybody, rich people have Chinese goods all over their mansions. Everybody, the cars we drive have Chinese made parts in them. All the American manufacturers, I think, use Chinese made parts. You name it. The stuff that we use and enjoy and that makes our lives better is most likely made in China, at least in part. So, we hope they capitulate and cave in. China does and lowers tariffs. The EU, in response to Trump's tariffs against them, said publicly, We're ready to negotiate a new deal in which there's no tariffs on either side, a 0-0 tariff regime, which isn't that what we all want? And Trump has not taken him up on that offer. He's suspended their tariff for 90 days, like he has with everybody but China, but he hasn't responded to that. And that makes me wonder, what is the end goal? Because I thought that was the end goal, was no tariffs at all on either side, which is what we all need and want. 0 tariffs for everybody is the best situation, true free trade. But Trump's not into that. And so this is why, again, I'm not even sure what he's after, but all I have to say is because this hasn't been tried in more than a century. And it was tried more than a century. It was tried when the American political economy was radically different than it is now, and the global economy is radically different than it is now, obviously. We really don't know. We really don't know what's going to be the consequence of this. So all I have to say is, God, I hope that Trump and Peter Navarro are correct, and that as far as I can see, every single professional economist in the world is wrong, because I still haven't seen a professional economist who thinks this tariff regime is a good thing. They are pretty much unanimously opposed to it. So I hope they're all wrong, and I hope that Donald Trump and Peter Navarro, his tariff czar, are correct about this. And that's really all we can do right now. We can just sit and pray that these dudes know more than they seem to.
Leandro with
Yeah.
the $5 super chat says he thinks this is just being aggressive. This will end in the Mar-a-Lago Accords.
Right. Using Mar-a-Lago to like sign major international deals, I could see that happening with Trump.
Yeah.
He wants his brand on everything. He wants to be credited for everything. The guy's narcissism is comical. It doesn't bother me the way it bothers liberals, but it's clearly what his motivation is for everything. He wants to be the man. He wants to be the guy who did the thing, who won the trade war with China, who won the war against Islam in the Middle East, who won the war, whatever, between Russia and NATO. He wants to win the war against immigration. He wants to be the greatest president of all time. He was talking just the other day, started joking, but then he said he wasn't really joking, about he's the best president in American history, even better than George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. He sort of said at first, he was like, oh, I'm just kidding. And then like a minute later, he's like, I'm not really kidding. In fact, maybe it's true. Who knows? I mean, and it's fine. And again, I'm not a bourgeois Victorian Puritan, so I don't care when people are grandiose about themselves. And this is one of the ways in which Donald Trump is completely African-American, by the way. His personality, his sensibilities, his taste, much of his politics are completely from the hood. He's not from the hood, but this is why, what is it, a third of black men voted for him, or black male voters voted for him. And this is why rappers have been calling him out for decades now. Yeah, he doesn't care. I mean, he's interested in his own self. He's interested in his own aggrandizement. And again, that is fine with me, but for most of American respectable society, of course, that's a cardinal sin. Our society, founded upon puritanical and then Victorian beliefs about self-abnegation, modesty, humility, all that stuff, right? Which black people, for a lot of good reasons, like, were uninterested in and ignored in developing the most expressive culture, arguably, in human history. Personally, individually expressive culture in human history. Trump, amazingly, even though he's a millionaire's son from outer Queens, I don't know if he was ever aware of that culture, but he's totally a part of it. All the gilded, all the gold edging, all the gold plating, all the all the spectacular demonstrations of wealth. It looks every video about Trump and Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower and his wife and his planes and all of it. It's the same sensibility and ethic and aesthetic as hip hop videos. There's no difference. They're the same sensibility. So, which I like, it's a little nerve-wracking when the president is a rapper and the president is negotiating all sorts of deals all over the world that are not just about wealth versus poverty and war versus peace and whether we're going to go to a nuclear annihilation war or not. It's a little nerve-wracking to have, Kanye West doing the negotiations, which Trump is essentially. I mean, there's not a lot of difference between him and like your typical trap rapper right now. In terms, again, really honestly, in terms of psychology and worldview. So anyway, but hey, maybe he's right. So today, as I said, he said he's suspending all the tariffs for all the countries in the world except for China, saying that they all have capitulated, which I can't believe. I know that many have for sure. I think 50 or 60 have announced that they're ready to deal with the United States to lower tariffs, but whatever. We'll see. It could all shake out. Who knows? Within a week or two, Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party could make some announcement saying, wow, we miscalculated and we are going to lower all our tariffs. We're going to eliminate all our tariffs on the United States. And we sure hope that Donald Trump will do the same for us because we want to be friends and partners equally going forward. This is all possible. This is all possible. David Sachs said this today. David Sachs is not stupid. David Sachs, I usually agree with him on foreign policy, on economics. He's major venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. He's also very politically sophisticated. He's been kind of a leader of the new Silicon Valley MAGA movement in the last couple of years. He's the smartest member of the All In podcast, part of the PayPal mafia. Today on Twitter, he just said, yeah, Trump's right about all this. Of course, it's the only way we could lower the tariff barriers with other countries. The only way we could equalize trade internationally. This was the only way to bring about a global economic regime that is good for Americans by forcing all these countries to come to the table by slapping these nasty retaliatory tariffs against them. That's what David Sachs said. And I have to take that seriously because he's been right about pretty much everything since I've listened to him in the last couple of years. And he's a very, very serious-minded guy. He's, by the way, is the cryptocurrency czar in the Trump White House also. So he's been a part of MAGA for a while now. But, him and then Chamath also of the Pritapatia, whatever, the other all-in guy.
Yeah.
Some Indian shit.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a sound Americans were meant to make.
Yeah. I can say that because I live with an Indian, so whatever. He's also been saying similar things about how this is just it's a negotiating tactic. It's just an attempt to push, prod, cajole these other countries to reduce their tariffs against us, to achieve a more favorable trade balance. Again, the idea that a trade deficit with another country is a bad thing, which is what Trump talks about all the time, as if it's like, and he calls it like a subsidy to other countries. That's not at all how it works. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with having a trade deficit with another country. Like, for instance, countries in South America, like, Colombia and Guatemala, where they grow bananas. We can't grow bananas in North America. We just can't, right? And so we probably have a trade deficit with them because we import tons of bananas all the time. And we don't export much to those countries because they're poor. They don't have the money to pay for our products. So, I'm sure we have trade deficits with all of the banana republics, literally that, in South America. Why is that bad? Who cares? We're buying bananas from people and they're not buying stuff from us. Great. So we now have bananas to eat, which we all enjoy and make us healthy because they have potassium in it, and the great pre-workout food, by the way, and post-workout food. You eat a banana my boxing coach said, eat a banana before your workout and eat a banana after your workout, and it'll be good. So this is really big for yuppies, for poor people, it's cheap energy. Why is this bad that we don't have Guatemalans buying whatever products we make? This is, I mean, so Trump is a trip. Trump is just a trip. He just is. I mean, this administration, the last 2 months now or so, the only thing I can say about him is that, like, nobody's analysis, we all have our own little theoretical models, all of us.
Trust the plan.
Right?
It's
it
as
does,
simple
like,
as that.
Whether you're an establishment Republican conservative, we don't, they don't know what to do with Trump. They don't know what to make of Trump. The left, of course, has been trying to analyze this dude for 10 years now and doing a terrible job of it. So they don't know. No one has tried to do the things he's done ever in American United States history. Ever. No president has done this. This is truly unprecedented, which in itself is no credit to him. But in a way, I do give him credit because, hey, I have no way to analyze this cat. I have no way to analyze this movement anymore. I have no way to analyze the probabilities of the consequences of what he's been doing because, again, this is all basically brand new. Even the McKinley regime, the McKinley presidency, which Trump always talks about, of the turn of the 20th century, right, which was a tariff regime, and then, of course, was the big global imperialist regime with the Spanish-American War and the war in the Philippines, etc. That was so long ago in such a different world, in such a different America. It's just not useful even. I'm not even sure it's relevant because the fight now is just played on utterly different grounds. So, but you must, how have you been doing? Have you been feeling okay?
Well,
Up
no,
and
it's
down
just,
here?
I was, again, I have whiplash because
Yeah.
I was ready to defend the tariffs completely uncritically if they were still in place and if the stock market was still down and everybody was still panicking and it looked like he was going to lose. I think the vision here, though, there is one obvious way to analyze this, which is the great man of history theory, which is completely undefeated and explains everything. But this is the one piece of policy that he's been most consistent on ever since he's had a public life.
True.
Like, he watched Lou Dobbs in the 80s.
Yeah.
When he first saw him on daytime television in the 90s, he was talking about trade deficits and he was talking about all this. Pat Buchanan with the Reform Party. Trump basically stole Pat Buchanan's entire playbook, especially when he ran in 2015, 2016. The idea, which he fleshed out a little bit more in the 2024 campaign, is we need external revenue. We need to raise money for the United States government externally. We should not be taxing our own citizens. So the end game of this is to abolish the income tax and raise our revenue like we did in the 19th century. There was no income tax in the 19th century.
Correct.
Yeah. So
correct. Most of the federal governments, the United States government's revenues came from tariffs until the income tax, which, of course, was used first and foremost to fund World War I. U.S. entry into World War I, which was a great idea, and we're all so glad that the United States entered World War I because we gained so much from that and gave up so little. That was a joke, but yeah, okay. So tariffs to replace income tax. Ultimately, you think that's what's going on here?
Well, that was explicitly, Trump did say that in the last week. He said that was still part of the plan, and that was sort of what he hinted at when he was campaigning. And that's what got Thomas Massie on board with this. Thomas Massie sees the 19th century model. He's not, I don't think, totally on board with the whole tariff plan necessarily, but I think he's in line with the vision.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what convinced a lot of libertarians to come over to this view of things. And if you look at how free trade agreements have worked out, it hasn't always necessarily worked to the United States' favor. It's been worked out into the advantage of multinational corporations at the expense of the American worker. So, for example, I mean, and it works both ways. Like there were free trade agreements in like 2006 that Bush had with Central America, and then we ended up flooding Central America with subsidized corn and subsidized really cheap farm goods, and the farmers from there went out of business, and that's what started the migrant crisis a little bit to come up to here. So it's free trade can be a destabilizing force, and free trade is kind of a misnomer when there's so much government intervention in the economy to begin with, and we're not starting at level playing fields, and you've got China manipulating their currency and stealing intellectual property. So what's interesting about this also in this moment was the working class Trump supporters, for the most part, were willing to take the hit and suffer a recession. And from what I could tell, they were all on board with suffering the inflation of the raised prices in order to rebuild a new economy that favors the American worker and attempts to bring manufacturing back. I think it was a wild week to live through and to witness that happen, and to note the people who were freaking out, like David Sachs, like Chamath, like Bill Ackman, like Ben Shapiro. It's the tech billionaires, and it's the free traders, Cato Institute type people who haven't been on board with American populism and haven't seen the vision necessarily. So an important thing about the tech billionaires, they were all Biden donors in 2020. So, and it's interesting, Glenn Greenwald has been talking about this. Glenn Greenwald was saying, it looks like Trump capitulated to panic in the bond market and panic from Bill Ackman and David Sachs, telling him to ease the tariffs. So he thinks that the technology oligarchs are still in charge at some level in this new administration. But there's also another perspective, which was Dugin's perspective, in that, once again, great man of history, reshaping the world to his vision. But he's actually isolating China from the rest of the world and undoing all of the poor actions of the previous administration to make China the economic friend of the rest of the world. And, you know, he forced China to reciprocate in this trade war. And from Alexander Dugin's perspective, he tweeted out that a trade war is better than a hot war. And that's kind of in line with how bellicose the Democrats used to be about China, that they were pretty much anticipating going to war with China over Taiwan. And now we see the conflict being moved out to the financial markets. So there's a lot of 3D chess, 4D chess happening. I'm glad that the ship is stable for now economically. I wish I poured all my money into the stock market yesterday.
Yep.
If the president tells you to buy, you should probably buy. if the guy who's controlling everything, yeah.
Well, okay, so I mean, we know one thing now. We have one pretty important data point, which is that the stock market hates tariffs, right? So I mean, which is odd because
but that's all speculation, though. That's all speculation.
Well, so is the stock market generally, but
which
but doesn't matter. Whatever they, even if what they think is superstitious, like it's still, it's still important. Because, well, it's odd though that the market didn't react to Trump's victory, to Trump's dozens and hundreds of promises to impose huge tariffs as soon as he was president. Since the 1980s, he's been saying this. Like, this is no surprise. I mean, totally give him credit for that. He's been absolutely 100% upfront about what he was going to do on this issue from literally when I was in high school. So, but once the market saw him impose pretty much the second he imposed the first tariffs or announced them, the market tanked. Yeah. And the Dow dropped thousands of points, you know, and then the second he announced that he was rescinding these tariffs, or at least pausing these tariffs for 3 months, the market bounced back big time today. 2,500 last time I checked, up the Dow. As of I think midday, it was up 20. I don't know what it ended at, but it was up 2,500. So the market, the stock market, is clearly allergic to tariffs. And when the stock market tanks, we know what that can bring. Not that that's a good thing, but it's just true. The stock market has tremendous consequential power over the economy generally, and when it tanks, it can not always, but it usually does lead to either a recession or a full-on depression. And this is what Trump's playing with, and God, I hope he's right. God, I hope he wins this, but it's just really dangerous and risky and scary. And as I said, every economist in the world, except for Peter Navarro, thinks that this is a disaster. I mean, liberals, libertarians, socialists, conservatives, all of them are saying, have been saying, Elon Musk, members of Trump's own administration, major MAGA people have been saying this is a disaster. This tariff regime, this trade war will simply result in economic catastrophe. So we'll see, man. I hope. I don't know. I mean, in a way, I don't have a dog in this fight because none of us know. It's sort of humbling in that way because no one knows. Because again, this has never really been tried. Because even what McKinley did in the 1890s, again, that was in a completely different world than the one we live in now. So this is brand new. We just don't know, like so many of Trump's things. Maybe there's a method to his madness. God, I hope so. Because I really don't want to go through another recession. I've had enough of those in my life.
Yeah. Glenn Greenwald was also talking about this, that the tariffs kind of used to be a left-wing position.
Protectionist, labor,
protectionist,
labor union, big labor union issue. Oh, sure.
And the economic populism of especially the post-2008 Occupy Wall Street era.
Oh, yeah.
A big emphasis of it was the stock market is not an indicator of the United States economy more broadly. The Dow Jones for the last 50 years, for the last 10, 20 years especially, has been going up and up and up and up and up for boomer retirement savings and for BlackRock. But it's been impossible for young people to afford housing, healthcare, and education. And so, income, wages have not risen with that at the level you'd want them to. So when you see that lagging divide, it seems to be an indicator of economic inequality and not necessarily an indicator of conditions on the ground for the average American. So I was really interested to see America go to war and see how it plays out and see if Trump and Pat Buchanan were right. And I think a lot of us, myself included, would be willing to take that hit economically, maybe suffer a recession again. And honestly, a lot of the stock market is based off of pure speculation and just crap. Like people are sending money into AI projects that are failing, that, it's just trillions of dollars of crap. And and it's all fiat. But I'd be willing to go through that if there's no income tax, if the IRS is abolished, the surveillance economic state is abolished, and I get another 20, 30% of my income.
Damn. Can you imagine?
Off the dome. Yeah. Just
Can you imagine?
Off rip.
No income tax? State or federal? Yeah.
Imagine that economic boom for Main Street with no income tax. Imagine how much better everybody's lives would be from that.
So for most people, I think that's like between 30 and 50% of their income.
Yeah, I just revealed my tax bracket on air, but
well, but I mean, most Americans are in there. I mean, even the rich, I think the the richest only pay like 50%, I think, in this country, something like that, 60.
Mm-hmm.
And the working class still pays 30%, which I think is an awesome injustice. It's amazing that people who make that little money pay 30%.
Yeah.
But anyway, so most people, I think most Americans, like the vast majority, pay somewhere in that range. But imagine that. Imagine having that money to yourself.
Imagine all the small businesses people could start with that.
Ooh.
Imagine all the,
Yeah, man.
All the made in America products.
How many of us, right? How many of us have horror stories basically about the IRS taking our money?
Yeah.
I certainly do. Most people, after you get past a certain age, especially, I'd say probably most Americans have an issue with the IRS, which is why they hired all those 100,000 IRS agents under Biden, because they couldn't deal with all of us tax cheats.
Which Doge fired.
And what I really recommend that everyone do, everyone listening, but really we need all Americans to do this, is to just stop paying your taxes all at once, all at the same time. Everybody, we just say this. Think about that, right? It's a general strike. It's a general tax strike. So everybody, all American taxpayers on the same day, just announce publicly, I am not going to pay taxes to you no matter what. And if we all did that, guess what? They have nothing they can do. And we will not pay any taxes going forward. That's a general strike. That's a left-wing tactic that's been very effective in the past for like communist causes. But let's use it for like a liberatory cause that will be widely popular, by the way. Communism has been up and down in popularity, but man, when people get to keep their money, super popular worldwide. And so we could do that. General tax strike. All Americans refuse to pay taxes until they eliminate the taxes. And we can do it if it's a unified, universal American cause. It's the new civil rights movement. Let's go.
Is it Peter Schiff's dad that's in jail for that? That's
right. Irving Schiff died. He died in jail.
Yeah.
He died in prison, refusing to pay taxes. Jeez. Don't do that. That's exactly what I'm advocating not doing. If we are unified, again, left-wing tactics.
If only 350 million other people just were right by his side, it would have worked out.
Exactly. It's more like 200 because those are the adult population is something like 200. Yeah, 200-ish people in America, living in America, American citizens. If we all decided we're not going to pay taxes and we're going to be public about it, what can they do? They clearly can't put us all in prison like Irving Schiff. What can they do? Can they fine us all? Sure, they can try to fine us. Or what are they going to do? Collect those fines somehow? No. The state does not have the capacity, the enforcement capacity to have any response to that at all. Again, if it's a collective, unified, universal movement like that, a refusal to participate, to either work or to pay, we win every single time. So can we all get together and do that? I really just do it for me, just this once, Americans. If you're listening, just do it for me because I love you and you love me. If we just all one day, we can set the date, pick the time, make the announcement. We will no longer pay taxes. So we'll see.
And I think this brief stock crash is good to juxtapose with the COVID crash, where everybody was totally comfortable crashing the market to reshape the global economy in favor of the Amazon billionaires, in favor of the tech oligarchs, in favor of the Great Reset and the globalists, crushing American small businesses, like legacy businesses, for months. No economic activity. Everything gets reshaped to tech oligarchs and massive warehouse corporations.
Yeah.
The biggest redistribution of wealth ever in human history, with the CARES Act following it. Everybody was on board with that for total technocracy, globalist aims. And here we are on the verge of experimenting with a similar seismic shift that will have some winners and losers potentially, but with the American people and national sovereignty in mind. And everybody who is on board with COVID is against it, and everybody who suffered from COVID is for it. So I think the American people and democracy deserve a chance to wreck the economy for once and see what happens.
Wait, you really want to wreck the economy?
Well, I'm willing to see how the tariff experiment plays out. And I've heard Jeffrey Sachs talk about tariffs, and, you know, I do like Thomas Sowell and I do like Milton Friedman, and I think they're probably right about the global economy and that this is what things are built on now and that it's prosperous for all of us. But I'm willing to play it out. I'm willing to do the experiment. I'm willing to try to bring manufacturing back. I'm willing to try to get rid of the income tax. I'm willing to tank Amazon if it means more people go to the farmer's market because imported eggs are $12 a dozen and your neighbor can make them for $5 a dozen. So, which is happening rapidly now. Also from COVID economically, environmentalists talk about this, but localized supply chains. So much, there was a huge crackdown of supply chains and a huge increase in prices unnecessarily from COVID. And if you localize the supply chain, you have less airplanes flying all around the globe because it needs to be produced here and then packaged there and then washed here and then driven through here and avoided the tax here. You know, huge reduction in carbon if people are local with their everything, with their food and with their essentials, and just a healthier, stronger economy potentially. You know,
buy some chickens.
Yeah,
everybody buy some chickens.
But food literally grows on trees.
It actually does.
It does.
Yeah. Buy some chickens if you're worried about the egg situation. When I was living on the urban farm in Oakland, you know, I would walk out my door and open a little drawer and there'd be like a bunch of eggs every morning. So, and they were free. I recommend that. And you can do that. You can do that almost anywhere you live.
Yeah.
So, can you hear the sawing coming from outside?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Jesus Christ,
California. I don't know, but
just an annoying neighbor. Sorry.
Yeah, all good. But that was the number one lesson I think from COVID. I mean, there's plenty of lessons, but number one, get a local food source.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah,
yeah. Let's go to hunting and gathering and bartering. Really. Yeah. Like on a basic level, I mean, that of course is more sustainable and secure. It's much more secure if you're growing your own food, or you know, if you're getting your food from people in your immediate area. Sure. I don't advocate going back to a primitive agricultural economy, but on the local level, on the individual level, I think moving toward that is just sensible. Plus, the eggs are better. They just taste better. The yolks are beautiful.
Vin Armani was also talking about this. He said a potential plan of the tariff policy, a potential objective of it is we need dollars. We just need to bring dollars into the United States.
Without printing them.
Without printing them, correct.
Yeah, right.
So if the trade war results in more exports, which economists like Jeffrey Sachs say that's not going to happen. It's going to be a war that just levels everybody out. But if it works the way it should, manufacturing goes up, tariffs go down because it's a bartering tool. So more exports, United States exports are bought elsewhere, maybe. Dollars from the international world, like 80% of dollars are outside the US. And so to get the dollars we need to run the economy, without printing more dollars and creating inflation, you need to raise revenue externally. And so he sees the tariffs as that's being the objective.
But it's not external.
Yeah.
It's American companies paying the tariffs.
The idea is maybe a trade war comes and other tariffs go down. If it increases U.S. exports, if the end goal is achieved of increasing U.S. exports.
How many American companies import Chinese goods? I mean, it's that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
like
there's
what's going on in those companies right now? All the companies that import Chinese goods or parts, right? That's got to be a huge percentage of all American businesses. And I'm really worried about all the people who work in those businesses. I'm worried about that sector of the economy. It's huge. I think that every auto manufacturer, I think they all use Chinese parts.
That's the thing. There's no American manufacturing purely. Everything is manufactured in China and Vietnam, etc. It comes here. Part.
Yeah.
And then there's American assembly, but all the parts come internationally.
So those parts now have 125% tariff on them. So how are Ford and GM and Chrysler going to import those parts and make these cars that we all want? Hopefully this will result in, maybe the only silver lining is American cars will start to get smaller, because I can't stand these giant mega trucks. If you live in an American suburb, which most people do, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they blot out the sun. They're so big. Cyber trucks are just part of it. The truck situation in American suburbs especially is out of control. And why do we have to have Batmobiles to take our children to school in the morning? Why do we have to have these vehicles you could invade a country with? I mean, you can mount to like a howitzer machine gun on top of these bad boys, most of them. And you could probably invade successfully most third world countries with one single American suburban truck.
Wow.
Outfitted with one machine gun. I think you could. I mean, it's ridiculous how giant they are. Anyway, so I hope that
we have seen the Taliban and ISIS use these trucks.
Those are the small ones. They're using the Tacomas.
Yeah.
What are these, like GMC Denali's or whatever the fuck they are? I mean, they're so big you can't even see. It's just like when I'm 6'1", I can't see over the top of them when I'm standing in front of them. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I hope that's one of the consequences, but it won't be, because Americans' taste for size, Americans are size queens, won't go away, and that will dictate what the market brings. So anyway, all right, we got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry for the abbreviated show tonight. What should we cover?
Other news in trusting the plan. Iran is ready to come to the table for nuclear talks.
Oh yeah.
They're heading to Oman Saturday, the 12th. And maybe Trump will figure out some nuclear deal. The rumor is he's going to basically use Obama's deal that he took away and call it the Trump deal in some way, and going to create world peace. We did see a lot of the right wing get very, very angry at Trump. Tucker Carlson, most notably, called out the Trump administration, saying this is more important than tariffs. This is more important than anything else. War with Iran is the dumbest thing anybody could do. Lots of Americans will die. It will destroy your legacy. This is the worst decision ever. A lot of realignment happening in the media space. Also, Tim Pool had a secret meeting with Netanyahu and some other podcasters, and he was bragging about it, but a lot of his listeners didn't really like the idea of having a secret meeting with Netanyahu and not being able to report on what happened at that meeting. So it seems like the right is turning on war with Iran, not for it, the populist right at least, and maybe this is another art of the deal, that he was bellicose a week ago and that he'll walk it back come Saturday.
All right. So I apologize if you can hear the saw.
It's just a little, but
okay,
it's fine. Yeah,
I
have headphones.
So here's what I think I would like for everyone to think about and consider, which is something that I think I've only heard one other person say in recent days regarding this conflict with Iran and sort of US and the Middle East generally. We need to step back and understand what Iran has been doing, what they're up to, what they're relationship with the United States is and why. And not just them, but their so-called proxies, the militias, the Iranian-linked militias in Iraq and Syria that have been firing missiles against Israel and against the United States in recent months. What are they doing? We know that we're told that Iran thinks America is the great Satan. Oh God, that they hate us. That's bad. And they think Israel's the little Satan, and that's, I guess, bad too. And therefore we got to go to war with them because they fund all these militias and armies that attack the United States and Israel. Well, that's bad. So we've got to go to war with these people. So that is what the 90+% of Americans, including American politicians, think about Iran. They're anti-American. They attack America. True. They've attacked American soldiers for the most part over the last 40+ years. True. Since the 1979 revolution that gave rise to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Yeah, they've been really anti-American, rhetorically and even militarily. Correct. They've killed American soldiers. Absolutely. God, they're just bad. And so we got to go to war with them. In this, it's incredible that that's the extent of American thinking about who Iran is. And by the way, I'm now describing the entire Trump White House, the entire Trump administration, all of MAGA. That's what they think about Iran. Oh, they're just anti-American. They've killed American soldiers, so we got to kill them. Let's step back, because I'd say a lot of Americans know this, but they forget it. In 1953 was the first real interaction between the United States and Iran. Yeah, we secretly invaded their country, orchestrated a coup against their democratically elected leader, Mossadegh, and installed the king, the former king of Iran, to head that country in perpetuity. Oh, and then the CIA trained the king's secret police in torture techniques and also identified communists and Islamists in Iran that he should put in prison forever, which he did under the CIA's guidance. He imprisoned and tortured and killed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Iranian dissidents. First, they were communists, but then increasingly, they were Islamists, followers of this guy named Ayatollah Khomeini, who was an up-and-coming cleric in Iran at the time in the 1950s. And he gained more and more adherents as the Shah of Iran, using CIA advice, tortured, killed, and imprisoned more and more of these Islamist rebels who were growing increasingly sympathetic and interested in what Khomeini was saying about how the United States is the great Satan, because they put this monster, this monster at the head of our country when no one wanted him. And look what he's been doing, torturing and killing our own people in the service of some Western country, some imperialist power. He's a toady for the imperial, which is true, was true. And so by the time the 1970s rolled around, there are so many of these Islamist rebels in prisons or who are dead, some of them missing fingers, many of whom have had their genitals electrocuted by the Savak secret police, all of whom were trained by the Central Intelligence Agency in Langley, Virginia. So by the 1970s, there was a massive movement of Iranian people. Most were Islamist, some were not, but massive movement among the Iranian people against U.S. imperialism in their country, against U.S. imperialism in their region, against U.S. imperialism in the whole Middle East, against U.S. imperialism, against the United States military and government and secret police involving themselves in other countries, overthrowing democratically elected governments, instructing the new governments on how to torture and kill and incarcerate the opponents of the American empire. Yeah, so they took power in 1979. There was a revolution because there were so many of these people who were furious about the United States of America dictating in the most brutal terms the destiny of their own country, thousands of miles away from the United States. How far is Washington, D.C. from Tehran? And why on earth are our troops and our government officials over there telling them how to live? The Islamic Revolution and then the Islamic Republic of Iran since 1979, but really since 1953, have been primarily interested, and one could say in relation to the United States, only interested in what? Killing you, killing me, imposing Sharia law on Indianapolis and San Francisco? No, they couldn't care less how we live here. They've been only interested in driving the United States of America out of the Middle East, ending the American empire in the Middle East. Are you for ending the American empire in the Middle East? Are we watching this? Would we like the United States to bring its troops and its bases home from the Middle East, to stop interfering in the lives of people in the Middle East, to stop propping up governments in the Middle East, to stop going to war in the Middle East, to stop funding Israel killing children in the Middle East, to leave the Middle East, come home and live like normal people and leave the rest of the world alone? Are you for that? I've been for that since I was born. I think most, if not all, people watching this show are for that too. We want the United States to withdraw the empire, don't we? First and foremost, from the Middle East, where most famously we've killed the most people in the last 20 to 30 years. So if you are an anti-imperialist, if you want to reduce the size of the American empire, in particular, you want the United States out of the Middle East, you need to be, in this particular fight, on the side of Iran, on the side of Hezbollah, on the side, yes, in this particular fight, of Hamas, in this particular fight, on the side of Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis in Yemen. The so-called axis of resistance across the Middle East, yes, funded for the most part by Iran. That is what they are primarily engaged in doing, attempting to kick the United States out of the Middle East. We must be in solidarity with them. If you are a liberal who doesn't like U.S. policy in the Middle East, if you are a socialist who doesn't like U.S. policy in the Middle East, if you are a libertarian, a conservative, anybody, if you don't want the United States engaged, involved, intervening in the Middle East anymore, this is the only way we're going to get the United States out. The only way is from the resistance of the resistance, the actual people who are resisting with guns in the Middle East. That's how the Vietnam War ended. We're all against the Vietnam War. We all think the Vietnam War was this terrible thing, terrible injustice, the United States invading and killing all these people in this faraway country for no good reason. Why did the United States ultimately leave Vietnam? Why did they end that war? Was it because of the anti-war movement, all the hippies who were marching in the streets? No. Because the big protests began in 1965. Hundreds of thousands of people protested in 1965. 1968, there were millions of people protesting in every city in the country against the Vietnam War. The war continued for another 5 years, guys. There were massive protests in every city every year from 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. None of it made a damn bit of difference to Lyndon Baines Johnson or Richard Nixon in their prosecution of this war. What did actually end the war? It was the military victory of the Viet Cong against the United States military and the South Vietnam military. It was the military conquest of the South by the communist North. That's what kicked the United States out of Vietnam. That is what ended the Vietnam War. Sorry, and I have nothing good to say about Vietnamese communism or Ho Chi Minh or the Viet Cong and their ideology or any of it. But if you want the United States to leave the rest of the world, which if you are a rational, sane person, you will want that, I'm sorry, the only thing that is going to remove the U.S. from the rest of the world is people like the Viet Cong and the people like the clerics who run Iran and the militants who run Hezbollah. They are the only ones who are going to kick the U.S. military out of that region and bring relative peace, or at least a peace in which we are no longer involved. So we have to be in tactical solidarity with the axis of resistance and see it for what it is. It is not an endorsement of Sharia law. It is not an endorsement of what the mullahs in Iran want for all of society. It is not asking for Ansar Allah and the Houthis to come to America and put our women in burqas. That's all ridiculous. It has nothing to do with any of that. Just like opposing the Vietnam War had nothing to do with wanting Ho Chi Minh to run the United States of America. We have to see what's going on. We have to see this as for what's really going on. I mean, it is an attempt to push the United States out of this part of the world that they don't belong in. It's a virtuous, righteous cause in that way, and it must be supported.
I have two options. I could detract or I could agree and amplify. And I think one interesting hypothesis is what John Mearsheimer has said before, that a nuclear Iran would be the safest thing for the region.
That's it.
And that imagine the historical counterfactual that Iran got a nuke in like 1994. How much safer the world would be. Like all the wars that would have been avoided, the 7-country plan, everything, that all the Middle Eastern wars would probably they make a lot less sense, you know.
They would not have happened.
Yeah.
If Iran had the bomb,
yeah,
they would not have happened. That's right. Sorry, I hate nuclear bombs more than anybody ever. But the idea of Iran, relatively a rinky-dink, weak nation state compared to certainly the other nations that have the bomb, would simply be a deterrent against imperialist war, which is all it is. Why did the United States have military bases across the Middle East? What? Wait, just everybody stop and think. No other country has military bases near us. None. Zero. None. There's no other country with really any significant military bases outside its own borders. There's like 2 or 3 in Djibouti in Africa. And there's not even in Syria. Russia no longer has that base. And it's basically it. Russia and China have basically no military bases outside their borders. But the United States has giant military bases in almost every country, especially in the Middle East. All over the place. Thousands and thousands and thousands of American troops, American soldiers, American civil servants, American civilians working for the government in these other countries. Damn near every country has an American outpost or base or office or something. It is clearly an empire. It is costing us trillions of dollars. It is killing people there and often here. It is accomplished. What is it now? 6 straight lost wars. Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and then there were some smaller wars in there too. All of them losses. Like spectacular losses. So again, if you want to end this ridiculous thing that is bankrupting our country, killing people wholesale over there, and has killed thousands of American men, mostly, some women too. If you want to end that thing, if you want to stop sending trillions of dollars to other countries to basically make war so that we Americans can control the entire world, if you want to end that whole system of Pax Americana, of the global 20th century American empire, you need to be in solidarity with Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. On this, not on everything. Not on everything. People freak out just on this, just on one thing. It's called coalitional politics, guys. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. We join with other people who we disagree with on everything else, but on one issue, we come together so that we win on this one issue and make the world better on that one issue.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Geopolitics and the role of women in public. Just
oh,
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, those
coalition politics. Coalition politics.
We don't want those things to come together, do we? God, you just had to sneak in the sexism. Okay, man. All right, appreciate it. But you're right, as always. All right, we got to go. I got to go. I'm sorry for the abbreviated session. Love the big crowd tonight. Thank you all for showing up. Apologize for the delay, but I really appreciate that so many people came to watch us spew our nonsense. All right, right now, it's time for the after show. Tonight's going to be the disco version. Actually, tonight's going to be the disco Molly version. So if you want to know what that means, our after show is after every Unreported every Wednesday night. If you want to hang out, you can either just watch it, be totally anonymous. We don't even know you're there. You can do that. It's a Zoom meeting, so you can set your controls so that we don't see you or hear from you or know your name even. Or if you want to come and harass me and yell at Michael and tell him to get a haircut or wherever it is, go to patreon.com/unregistered. If you become a patron at any level, you get access to the after show every Wednesday night, a live Zoom meeting with Michael Weimer and Thad. So you should do that. Also, you know what? Because you've been watching this show and you've been loving this show, I'm talking to the world now, the audience, people, you give us, man, help us out. This shit's work. Michael works. I talk. Michael works. You need to help us, support us, keep the show going. Otherwise, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get left wing and go on strike. How about that? We're going to have a fucking strike on you. Then you'll be sad for not paying us. Okay? That's how revolution happens. So go to patreon.com/unregistered and become a member at any level. It is so cheap and we need it. Right, Michael?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Glad you agree.
It's all right. Sweet. We're out. That's everything.
We're out.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, peace.
Peace.